Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So let's hop across the pond. And in hopping across the pond, I want to talk about something very specific and very direct. Brexit. What do you mean by Brexit? When people took that vote on Brexit, one of the things that was not an OT on people's mind, that is definitely on people's mind now, is Northern Ireland. How on earth are you going to actually do Brexit? Talking about pulling Britain out of the customs union while at the same token minding the Good Friday Agreement. Theresa May seems to be doing this kind of fantasy thinking, and yet she pushes on. One sharp rebuke after the next. 3 rebukes. They just rebuked her in the House of Lords. Another one of the policies that she wanted. Essentially, she's a person who believes in amazing things. That she can have her cake and eat it too. That she can leave the customs union while at the same token somehow keeping Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland intact. Meaning minding the Good Friday Agreement. I'm going to show you a conversation that was had by a gentleman, a phone call, a Brexit caller. And the Brexit caller is taking this position that, look, they'll solve it because they have to solve it. Whereas the person, James O'Brien, is like, you're a maniac. How on earth are they going to solve it? Getting to the point where he's screaming at the caller as he's trying to get across to the caller. They don't have a solution. They don't have a solution. They do not have a solution. You're believing in amazing and impossible things. They don't have a solution. And by they, I'm meaning Theresa May's government. Let's take a look at this conversation. It's short, but I think it's informative because it really nails home why they don't have a solution. And why people who are saying, what is the solution to Northern Ireland? What is the solution to Northern Ireland? The European Union is talking about annexing Northern Ireland. What are you doing? What are you going to do for Northern Ireland? And Theresa May, giving the same ridiculous answer that she's continuously given, that she's going to have some kind of technological solution to fix this. Again, believing in impossible and imaginary things. Let's take a listen to the caller itself. What I would say to Britain is, there's an iceberg ahead. And Theresa May is your captain of that Titanic.
Agree to pay them as an out-of-court settlement, the 35 to...
No, that is the observance of our financial commitments that were already established under the terms of our trading treaty. So if we don't pay it, we might as well put a big sign up at Dover saying, don't believe a word we say, we'll break trust, we'll break contracts as easily as Boris Johnson cheats on his wives.
Actually, what it is at the moment is it's an offer.
It's been agreed, Bob.
Yeah, no, it's in a draft agreement.
It's been agreed. They couldn't press on with the trade negotiations until they'd agreed the divorce settlement. Do you people watch the news?
Understand what he's saying. He's saying, look, you're telling me about this monetary thing, but that's been already agreed upon. It puts me in the mind of the argument that was had, I think, during the Obama administration, where they were like, we don't want to raise the debt limit. It was like, what do you mean want to raise the debt limit? It's about paying our obligations. You're not raising the amount of money that the government is spending. The government has already spent this money. Now, you had a lot of people who weren't really paying attention to the news, weren't really paying attention to this. It's like, well, the government needs to cut it. Why are we paying all this money? We could just go over the ceiling, over the limit. Those people didn't know what they were talking about. In this very specific case, he's making a point to the guy, look, we've already agreed upon this, and you could not, we can't even move on to the next part of the conversation until this particular part was agreed upon, and we've already agreed upon this. If you go back on this particular part of the agreement, how can you believe anything that we're saying, and we're in the middle of this sensitive negotiation, and you've just said fuck all on this main part. Can't go back on it. The caller is making this point of, nothing is agreed upon until everything is agreed upon. So whether we agreed upon something early on or not is kind of besides the point. Nothing is agreed upon until everything is agreed upon. You can make a case that they're kind of both right, but at the same token, the guy whose show it is more right. Let's stay with that one. I'll go with that one. But let's keep going, because this gets somewhat worse for the caller. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt on this, but this gets progressively worse.
We have to agree that it's a draft agreement at the moment because it hasn't been completed.
Oh, Crikey.
You remember the EU's dictum that nothing is agreed till everything's agreed?
Yes, and we don't move on to the second stage of negotiations until the three stages have been agreed in the first. Ireland, the fate of EU citizens, and the divorce settlement. They've kicked Ireland into the long grass. The fate of the EU citizens has kind of been fudged. The only thing they've agreed on is the so-called divorce settlement. But
Yes. Please tell me you understand what he's saying. He's like, look, there are multiple things that need to be agreed upon before really getting to the meat of the negotiations. They don't necessarily know fully what they're going to do with regards to the people who are citizenship stuff. Okay, for the most part, I think we have a tentative thing that the citizenship is going to be upheld. We're not necessarily going to fudge that too much. Fair enough. Northern Ireland, however, what are you going to do with Northern Ireland? We don't know. That's unsolved. I would make the case that's unsolvable, at least under the model that Theresa May is creating. And the last part he's talking about, that divorce settlement. He's saying the only thing that they've settled was the divorce settlement. So, yes, none of it is agreed upon until all of it is agreed upon. But the one thing that you agreed upon, this guy's like, well, you can kick that into the grass too, to put the colloquial way he put it. This up to this point, it's slightly weird because my feeling is, yes, they're kind of both right in the sense of what both of them are saying. They're slightly talking past each other, even though this particular person who's on the radio, James O'Brien, I think he's more right in his understanding of this kind of contextual understanding of, yes, none of it is agreed upon till all of it is agreed upon, but the one thing that they actually agreed upon was the divorce settlement, and you're saying that they could, fuck off for that one. Let's keep going, because this is not really at my point. I want to get to the point where he gets... What he's saying here is absolutely right, James O'Brien. The way he laid this out is absolutely right. Let's keep going.
You carry on with your genius analysis.
Well, okay, thank you for that. I appreciate the sarcasm.
And have you seen the news today about that divorce bill, have you? From the National Audit Office?
I haven't seen the news today yet.
It's gone up.
Yeah, okay.
By about £10 billion.
Right, so there could be more at stake. But the point I'm going to make is if the EU pushes the UK government into a corner on the Irish border...
What corner? How is it a corner?
Because we keep bringing them solutions in a game of bring me...
What's the solution that works, Bob?
No, I'm not going to get into the detailed solution.
He says, I'm not going to get into the detailed solution because you don't have a solution. You don't have a solution, and neither does Theresa May. Like the point that the radio host is getting at is nobody's pushing you into a corner. You just haven't had a solution. And he's like, well, they've given us solutions. What solutions? What solutions? Well, I'm not going to get into that because you don't have a solution. Theresa May doesn't have a solution. She's talking about this technical nonsense. It doesn't work. That's not a solution. It was roundly rejected by the EU. The House of Lords has even come out and rejected Theresa May's idea on what this should turn out to be. I didn't mean to cut him off. I'm sorry. I know I cut him off. I didn't mean to. Let him finish.
I'm not going to get into the detailed solution.
Then why have you phoned me?
Because it's about... I'm not going to...
What's the solution that works, Bob?
No, I'm not going to get into the detailed solution.
Then why have you phoned me?
Because it's about the negotiation.
It's about what solution works, Bob. The whole programme is dedicated to the self-evident truth that you cannot solve this problem while observing the tenets of the Good Friday Agreement and the rules of customs union membership. But you told me there is a solution. What is it?
I'm not talking about the solution.
Well, I am, and it's my show. So what is the solution?
The solution will be found if there's good faith negotiation on both sides. At the moment, that's not what we've got.
So you have absolutely no idea what it's going to look like, smell like, or talk like, but you're supremely confident that it's going to turn up one day.
I am confident, but fortunately I'm not involved in the negotiations. But
you couldn't do any worse, Bob. We could talk for hours. Are you going to offer up a scintilla of explanation as to what this thing on the horizon actually looks like? Or are you just going to keep saying, no, something will come up, it has to be good, someone clever will come along and solve it? We've only been doing it for 22 months.
I'm trying to tell you how it will eventually be settled.
Go on then.
It will be settled because at the moment the UK government cannot possibly agree to a border down the Irish Sea. No government could do that, regardless of whether they were propped up by the DUP
what this caller is missing, this caller is missing something. He's making this point of it's going to be solved because it has to be solved. No government would accept a border down the coast in this way. The radio host, James O'Brien, is kind of making a point to him. That's kind of the point, that there is no solution to this. No government can accept that, but by the same token, the Theresa May government hasn't given a solution that will prevent that. That's the issue. That's the crux of the issue. You asserting that it's going to be solved is not the same thing. Theresa May has said she's going to take the UK out of the customs union. That's what she said. She seems that she's hell-bent on meaning it. She's confronted with questions. And those questions, up to this point, at what he says, 22 odd months, have not been answered. And icebergs are coming. And icebergs are coming. That's all I'm saying. This looks bad, and I have to be honest, I get more worried about this idea of Brexit. And I'm not even in fucking Britain. The closer this comes to fruition, I like the country. So yeah, I get worried about it as it gets closer. She wants impossible things. And I don't quite know, and I would imagine she also doesn't know. At the very least, she has not articulated how she's going to pull those impossible things off. You can't take the UK out of the customs union while at the same token maintain the integrity of the Good Friday Agreement. Both of those things do not coincide with one another. And up to this point, no solution has been given that would make that work. So, I like this because I think he framed the conversation well in the sense of there's no solution to this. At least not setting up the framework that Theresa May is using or operating under. Brexit is an iceberg. Beware, Britain. I'm just saying, beware. And icebergs are coming. And iceberg is coming. All right. Didn't mean for this one to be long, so I will keep this one short. If you guys enjoyed the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. I don't know who James O'Brien is. I came across this channel because I watched George Galloway. I think Galloway is a badass. And just so happened, this guy's on the same, I guess, LBC, whatever that station is, with Galloway. His framing of this is perfect. And his explanation of, here's the problem. Theresa May has no tools to solve this problem under the framework that she's operating under. They're clashing. The ideas clash with one another. You can't solve it that way. Framing is awesome. That's what I'm trying to. I love it. So I would end this here. I put the link at the bottom for you to see it for yourself. That caller had no solutions. Zero solutions. His best bet was no government would allow this, and because no government would allow this, then the government would not allow it. Yeah, dude, I understand you believe that no government would allow it, but that's kind of the point. It's a problem. It's an unworkable solution. It's an unworkable problem. And she's given no solution to this. And I love the way he says, put us in a corner. It's not Britain being put in a corner. Britain not having a solution to a particular problem is not the same thing as Britain being put into a corner, especially when Britain itself was the originator of the problem. So I feel where he's coming from that perspective. Maybe it looks like they're being put into a corner. I don't think so, dude. You're not being put into a corner. So I'll leave it at that. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can support through Patreon. And I realize I already said that. So I'll end it here. Thanks, everyone.